Viewers, welcome to episode number 2. And today is going to be a discussion, really a dialogue. Dialogue is very key to this country. And with me today, I have my special friend, Shayne McKinney. Shayne, how are
Hi,
you, man?
Stephen.
Now, viewers, he is running for Fort Smith mayor, but I wanted Shayne to be on the podcast just to show that we can have dialogue with each other. Want to get to know his story, what drives him, what motivates him to really be a part of this political process. So, Shayne, welcome to the show.
Thank you
Welcome
so
to
much, Stephen. I really appreciate you taking the time to put this together. It is not as easy to start a podcast as many people would lead on.
the yes, sir. So, Shayne, uh, this is your time. Tell us a little bit about you. My viewers want to know you.
Okay, so first off, I've been in Fort Smith or Van Buren my entire life. I've never lived elsewhere. Many people think I must be from California or some other exotic place across the waters in Europe or something like that, but I've always lived here. And I've always loved this community. And I've worked in economic development and technology consulting and other types of consulting around business in this area for most of my life. About 9 years ago, I got into real estate investing in this area. And now I make most of my money off my real estate investments. But I also managed to build a large online following teaching people how to buy properties, how to renovate properties, and I reach about 20 million people a month now on social media. So a lot of people know me from my social media. So if you do, hi, boys and girls.
Viewers, if you guys need to know more about real estate, hit this man up right now. He knows what it is. So, viewers, you may also know about him as well. The the vampire running for the Fort Smith mayoral race. Shayne, can you talk to my viewers about that?
Well, if you're talking about politicians and being bloodsuckers, I don't think that I'm the only blood-sucking politician in any political race, but I'm the only one that's not trying to hide it from you.
Ah, there we go. Well, hey, it's refreshing just to talk to you, get to know you, and really, I did not know that you were from Fort Smith or you born and raised. I'm from Fort Smith, born and raised in '95. So, Fort Smith is my home. Love it to death. And I understand that you were the one to push for the governmental change in Fort Smith. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. For those who don't know, the city of Fort Smith is ran by a relatively unique form of government. In the state of Arkansas, there are only 3 cities that are ran this way out of over 500 cities. And it is a city administrative form of government. But if you're from a city, there's many in the West that call themselves city administrative forms of government. They are usually significantly different than the way Fort Smith operates. So we are very unique. And the other 2 cities that operate with this form of government aren't particularly successful. Like, wow, look at them. In fact, they're kind of cities we probably wouldn't want to imitate. Most cities in Arkansas are ran by a mayor council form of government, where the mayor that we elect represents us and can hire people, fire people, and run the city the way you would expect. In reality, the city of Fort Smith is ran by an appointed administrator that does not answer to the voters, but we still bother to go through an election for mayor, which makes it very confusing. Many people think we elected a new mayor, things are going to change. The mayor even will take credit for things happening in the city frequently, but the mayor has no say, no influence. Well, I guess a slight amount of influence because he can put a camera on and say, "Hi, I'm the mayor of Fort Smith." But it's a part-time position. It only pays about $20,000 a year. It is not a powerful money-making thing, and the person that really runs the city, most citizens, when I started this campaign, didn't even know that person existed. They assumed the mayor was in charge because that's the
Hmm,
illusion our city likes to maintain.
interesting. Interesting. Now, Shane, wanted to dive in more of the weeds here. Can you talk to us a little bit about your political leanings or, just your beliefs?
So I'm independent, but I lean libertarian, which is I believe what most of you actually are. You've just gotten convinced at some point that you're a Republican or you're a Democrat and you went with it. But most Americans, in my opinion and estimation from talking, are actually libertarian, meaning we value freedom, we value independence and individuality, and we want the government out of our business so we can accomplish the tasks that we are trying to do with the least amount of interference possible.
Interesting.
Do you
That
know anything
would
about libertarianism?
mhm. That I'm not too familiar with the libertarian side. I've
Yeah.
known the history of the libertarians from presidential elections as well as state and federal side, but not. I never dived too much into it.
So, among many things, I'm also a magician. So, I do some magic. And a magician will often tell you to choose any card, pick a card, any card, that kind of thing. And the problem with that is most of the time you don't actually have the ability to choose.
Mm,
The two-party system is a magic act. As soon as you decide I'm Republican or I'm Democrat, you've already fallen into the magician's clutches. And if you've noticed over your lifetime, you continue to get the same thing no matter who you elect. It just continues to go down. But whichever side isn't in power is going to run against the one that is, as though it's the end of the world. Look how bad it's getting. Look at all these bad things. And then you're like, I can't wait to change. I can't wait to change if you're from the other side. And you look for that next change and you will vote vehemently for that person, regardless of their lack of qualification or lack of character. You will not care because you are so afraid of the other side. That is the two-party system. And people think that's just the way politics are. No, that's just how politics are in America. Most countries in the world do not have a two-party system. Most parliaments and houses of representatives are made up of many parties. But Fort Smith, or not Fort Smith, but the United States divided into two parties, figured out that if they convince you you're either a Democrat or a Republican, that you will vote for somebody you don't like because you would rather vote against the other party. And that's the illusion. And I frankly think that thanks to the internet and our ability to dialogue this way and have conversations this way, we are starting to see libertarian candidates and other candidates from other parties do much better politically. 20 years ago, they did not because they weren't allowed on stage in debates. They weren't allowed to be seen in conversation with, Trump or Biden or Obama or whoever. They just would not even give that person the ability to share a stage because they didn't want to face real questions. It was controlled. As long as it was Democrats versus Republicans, whichever one you picked, they already knew which way it was going. And I think those days are coming to an end as our nation progresses. And I think we're going to see a lot more freedom-loving Americans begin to look at people like Colt Shelby, who's running for governor of Arkansas, and other libertarian candidates. But the problem I will say with libertarianism is we are fiercely independent. And most of us would rather classify ourselves as independents rather than even libertarians.
mhm.
We don't like to unify. We don't even like to give up the power to organize into a political party because that's too much freedom given away. We value freedom over all else.
But I will say, looking at the history, one of the important or really interesting histories about it was Bill Clinton, as well as W. Bush or H.W. Bush, and y'all had a libertarian presidential candidate that.
No,
Oh, it wasn't him. No,
no, he was not libertarian. That was Ross Perot. He was running as an independent.
gotcha, gotcha. Well, what I was trying to go with that was, you know, everybody has differing opinions, differing political backgrounds and stuff. I would love to see in the presidential side having three or four different political parties share the stage with the Democrats and the Republicans and let the people decide, if that candidate has what it takes to be president. That's
And I
just
think the value of that would be not just seeing that, but it would push boundaries. You would have to be able to answer questions. And even if you don't vote for a different person, even if you voted for the Democrat or the Republican, you'd probably see that the libertarians would shift people more towards freedom because they exist and because they have to compete against those freedom loving ideas. And other parties as well could probably help to um, push more towards the center and more towards compromise and conversation and less toward this division that we see that's gotten so strong. You're for us or you're against us, and that I think is one of the most destructive things for a nation.
Now, Shane, let me see here. For your campaign, specifically for the mayoral race, what drives you to be in this race?
Well, I've wanted to see this change happen in Fort Smith for a very long time. I've wanted to see more elected officials and see the person in charge of our city answering to the voters. I've seen over and over again businesses struggle when I was doing economic development, and people, and I've started businesses and I saw other people starting businesses in our community. It became a fight against the city itself. Your family is in some business here, and you've probably had to deal with the inspections and the ridiculous oversight and some of the problems that they create. That doesn't make anything safer. It doesn't make anything better for the citizens. It just makes it more difficult to start a business. And neighboring cities are not that way. Fort Smith is infamously difficult to start a business in. So, all things being equal, you've saved up $50,000 to start a business. You know that it's difficult in Fort Smith and it's easy in Van Buren. Why would you not go to Van Buren? You know that it's easy in Springdale and difficult in Fort Smith. Why do you not go to Springdale? You know that it's
Mhm.
easy in Conway, but difficult in Fort Smith. And that's what we're seeing is these cities around us that have a much more business-friendly government are gaining tremendous numbers of restaurants and businesses and places to go and things to do because it's easy to do business with them. Meanwhile, Fort Smith continues to fight against me for fixing literal chop shop buildings that were used for stealing cars and crime havens, literally shutting me down on trying to turn those into effective businesses that would educate our young people. That's a true story that happened in 2021 here in town. Over and over again, Fort Smith interferes with good things that are coming to town just because we don't have anyone in control of the bureaucracy that is our city. We don't have a person that answers to the voters that can fire somebody or say, you need to straighten up and change your attitude and actually think about customer service with your job, not
Mm.
rule over the people, but ask, how can I help you, Shane, to perform better? How can I help you to succeed in business in Fort Smith? How can I help you to open this business? And since I've started this campaign, that's the message I get over and over again. I'll have somebody send me that message 3, 4, 5 times a week. If I tried to start a business in Fort Smith, and after 2 or 3 months of trying, I called another city, and within a week, I was able to open in another city. That is not something we need our city to be known for, and it's something I've wanted to see changed. Um, Last year, though, I did a video. So I teach people how to work on houses, how to inexpensively remodel, how to do things Grandpa would have taught us how to do when I was younger. So I did a video on how to change a ceiling fan. Very simple video, very simple thing to do. The city inspector watched my video on changing a ceiling fan, and the next day issued a stop work notice on my house for changing a ceiling fan without a permit. And so I did a FOIA request. In the history of Fort Smith, there's never been a single permit issued for changing a ceiling fan because it's never been a requirement. It isn't a requirement. It was him targeting me. And everything I did a video about, he issued a stop work notice over and over again. So I went through the process with our city. I contacted our city administrator. Oh, we don't have one. Actually, we have an acting city administrator. In the last 18 months, we haven't been able to hire a city administrator. Pretty ridiculous. So we don't even have a person to do that job. So I called the acting city administrator who didn't have enough time to take care of it. I called the mayor and he said, you know, Shane, I can't do anything. I don't have any power. And I was like, I know, but I thought maybe you could use your influence. And he's like, I don't have time. So then I contacted my city director, Jared Rigo, over that ward and said, hey, bud, can you take care of this? I contacted him through social media and he saw the messages. They were on scene. He didn't reply. So I sent him another one. He left it on scene. He didn't reply. There was no recourse. There is nobody that advocates for us citizens within this city that we get to elect that we can count on. And that is over and over and over again the story. So I decided, I guess I need to take matters into my own hands. How do we fix this? And the most clear path was to change our form of government so that in the future, the person in charge answers to the voters. And so you'll have a say. Doesn't mean everything will be perfect every time, no. Will we elect bad mayors? Probably. We've picked out bad administrators before. Well, our last one was literally fired for calling the citizens stupid on a hot mic. Like we've definitely had problems with that position. It's not always going to be perfect, but it is going to be accountable. And every 4 years, we will have a choice to change if we don't like the way it's going.
Gotcha. So let me ask you the change for that mayoral and the city government. Is there was there any update to that? Because if I remember correctly, uh, I don't think it went anywhere. If I'm mistaken, just let me know.
Well,
But
so there are two different ways that we can go about getting the vote to change the form of government. Both of them, though, will fall on the citizens in November choosing to change. It can't be done without the citizens choosing this. So ultimately, this goes to a ballot, just like we vote, and it'll be the same time in November that we vote for governor. We can choose if we want to change our form of government. One method is via petition, and we've got 3,400 signatures signed from local Fort Smith residents who want to see this change on the ballot. We need 2,600, so we've gotten up to 3,400, so we have more than the required number. However, when this change of government passes, the city clerk loses her job and it becomes an elected position. She doesn't live in the city of Fort Smith, so she can't run for that office. She's the one that gets to decide if it's on the ballot or not. We feel that's a significant conflict of interest, but that's the way the law is written. So we don't trust the process of her choosing whether or not the citizens' votes count. So we asked the city board of directors, now that you've seen us with 3,400 signatures, now that you've seen the countless thousands of hours that volunteers have put into this, and this is all grassroots. We've done this for less than $500. There were no big donors. We haven't hired fancy attorneys. We haven't hired employees. Every single person that's done this has done it as a volunteer. And we've collected these 3,400 signatures over the past few months. Now that they've seen that, we asked the city board of directors who can do this via ordinance. They can just, four of the directors can say, we would like to vote on it in November. And then in November, it would be on the ballot. So we asked them again yesterday. They had a vote on it. And once again, they did not approve it. And once again, Kevin Settle, one of our city administrators who's been on there longer than I think anyone, I may be wrong, but I believe he's the longest serving person, abstained from voting and left it at 3 votes. He didn't vote for it or against it. We need 4 votes to have a ballot on it. So that's the second time he has abstained with no reason. He and the others are afraid of the citizens getting to choose a new form of government. And for what reason they're afraid, I don't know. But you can speculate that as much as you like. The bottom line is there is they don't force anything upon the citizens with this. They just give the citizens the chance to choose. And they are against the citizens being able to choose their form of government. The last time this choice was made was 1967.
interesting. Wow, that was man. That's been that long. Wow,
Yes.
wow.
And we did not go from a mayor council form, which is what we're asking to go to. We went from what was called a mayor commissioner form of government then, which isn't even legal in Arkansas. You can't change a city to that form of government anymore because it's so corrupt. So there are some people that are against this saying, no, we changed from a mayor form because he was corrupt and we had to stop it. No, you changed from a mayor commissioner form of government. This is a mayor council form. So we'll have an 8-person council like all the other cities in Arkansas, Fayetteville, Springdale, Bentonville, Rogers, Conway. Um, you can name almost any city in Arkansas. Almost every one is ran this way.
I'm learning something new every day. Learning
Mm.
something. I love it. I love it. Well, Shane, let me also ask you this. Been in Fort Smith for about several years, seen that it does need to grow both economically and socially, I guess you could put it that way. But um, in your mayoral mind right now, mayoral candidate mind, public safety, what would be your top priority for public safety in Fort Smith?
I think, well, in addition to our roadways and pathways for citizens, which I think is a public safety issue as much as people don't like to think of sidewalks and things that way. I think that's important. I think the biggest public safety issue the city of Fort Smith is facing is mental health. and addiction, which those two things are basically the same thing, two sides of the same coin. Many people who are mentally healthy and are addicts like to say, no, addiction is a choice. It's just a choice these people are making. But many times it's the mental health slide that leads to that addiction issue. And for a long time, our city has and still largely does treat mental health problems like criminal issues. Um, and that stops the person that needs help from getting the help necessary. It floods our jails and our prisons with people that aren't helped while they're there, aren't going to recover while they're there, and are likely just to come back out and then have to go again and have to be housed at the expense of the state. When with better treatment, we could potentially have these people being productive members of society. We could have these people working jobs and doing things that help us as a society to do better rather than being a drain on society. But we have to approach this with compassion instead of anger. We have to uh, we have to treat these people as human instead of um, disturbed, like a icky feeling and uncomfortable that you feel when you're around some of these people. And no doubt, some of them may even make me uncomfortable. We had one yesterday at the board of directors meeting that has caused a stir online right now. A lot of people are talking about this man who was clearly having a mental health issue. And I thought for a minute I might have to defend myself. He got in the face of my press secretary. He was being extremely aggressive, threatening to go to his trunk and get his heat out of the trunk so he can bust a cap in people and all these threats and other things. But I also recognized that he clearly was having a mental health issue, so escalation wasn't the way to handle that, and we tried to keep it as calm as possible. But we reported it to the local police that were there, and they allowed him to remain in the meeting throughout, and he heckled people and said foul things to members of the audience, people that are volunteers on my campaign, and other people that were there, and just generally made everybody feel less safe and less good about it. And then he walked out, still with the same issues, still on the streets today, and with the potential to go violent if somebody were to push back against him, because the kinds of things he's saying is escalatory. Even if that person would not normally become aggressive, it's very possible he could get aggressive reactions out of them. I'm one of the most calm people I know, and I started to feel the need to become aggressive to defend the people around me. Um, so, despite the chief of police and three police officers being present, he still didn't receive treatment there.
I love that you touched on the fact of like the mental health aspect of people. Um, Recently, I have gone through a mental health sort of, I guess, awakening per se, and started to realize. Well, last month was Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. Studied a lot about the mental health and seeing that it is necessary to look into that, show compassion for people like that, but give them also, and well, if you allow me to, well, my 2 cents in a way, we need to uplift them instead of just just letting them be like, well, this is all you're going to be. There's nothing more that you can do with your life. I say uplift those folks and say, no, you're not this way anymore. Move on. We can help you rebuild your life from 0 to 100. That that to me is what I kind of aspire to, is just telling folks it's not the end. You can rebuild your life. And addiction, mental health, I know it's interchangeable or it's connected like that, but uh, you can wash away somebody's addiction, mental health, make them from what they were to something brand spanking new. That's just my 2 cents.
How can you do that?
Well, for me especially, is well, to talk to those folks, but always be on top of them. But for me to change something like that or change a person, to be accountable for that person. always meaning just talk to those folks and give them your number and say, if you have problems, if you have these sort of like issues, don't hesitate to call me. If you call me at like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, whatever the case may be, that to me is what I'm going through right now with my with my priest and my therapist. It's just to have like having somebody there accountable.
Well, I can say that that might work for you,
Mm,
but I have a son that struggled very heavily with mental health issues. And when he has a problem, just talking to somebody isn't sufficient. Um,
mm,
and some people need more than just, I can call him, I need him. He may not even know that he needs to call. It could be too late. And when the crisis hits, the ability to make the good decisions goes away. It's just no longer there. And so there are different levels of care that are necessary. And as a parent, that's been a thing that we've been having to face over the last few years. And the resources that are available at times of crisis can be very challenging and difficult because we do respect freedom. And he's over the age of 18, so he has autonomy. And if he doesn't choose to get care, then now we're having to take away his autonomy to get him care. And that's not a fun subject. It's not an easy subject. And I'm not offering easy answers of just saying the political, we need better mental health care in Arkansas. I'll put more money to it and it'll be better. I don't think money is the way to fix problems.
of
When I'm
course.
dealing with a house that I buy that is in really bad condition and in really bad shape, if you watch HGTV, they'll tell you just write a check for $30,000 for the kitchen and write a check for $20,000 for this and $30,000 for that. If that's the way you try to remodel houses for the sake of making money, you are going to lose your shirt. It's not going to make you money. That is not the way to handle problems. Just throwing money at problems incentivizes problems. It gives you anybody working to fix problems is like, well, problems make money. Let's have more problems so I get more money. That's if anything, we should have less money when people are creating more problems. That's a whole nother another question. So I don't believe that we can just throw money at this or just magically say, I'm going to tell all the police officers to treat everybody with mental health issues this way. I don't think there's an easy answer. This is us coming together as a society and recognizing, look, not all of us are the same. Not all of us are equal. We grew up being taught we're all the same, we're all equal, we can all be astronauts. I'm sorry, not all of you can be astronauts. Not all of you can be doctors. Not all of you can be lawyers. Not all of you can be internet personalities. Not all of you can be. We all have varied skills. We all have varied degrees of mental health, of faculties for thinking and math, and faculties for arts and creativity, and all
Mm.
different things to contribute in different ways. We're all important, but we're not all the same. And some people need to be handled in a different way because of their mental health situation. And we need to have resources to help them to be their best. And their best may be 90% of what a person without that struggle is. That's great. If we can get 90% out of them, that's way better than us having to pay for 100% for them to be housed in a prison or in a jail, and also taking a place away from somebody that could potentially be a violent offender or something else if we just figured out what this person needs specifically. And this isn't just me endorsing medicating. A lot of people think the only solution for mental health is medication, medication, medication. I talk often about the book Brain Energy, which is written by a Harvard psychologist. And of all the things for my son's mental health, diet has made the biggest difference. When he is in ketosis for a few weeks, he is at his best. If he goes on a sugar bender, he gets worse. And the research from this doctor found that a lot of people's mental health mania can be tied sometimes to being on a high sugar, high carb diet. And just changing people's diet might be a way of helping to treat these things. But that is still something that we have to contribute and help and say, all right, how do we help this to happen? What's less expensive for society? And in general, the less expensive thing for society is how do we get these people to the point they can be productive?
Now, viewers, I should have just reiterated that for me, especially like in mental health and depression and stuff, that may have worked for me. But again, all of you guys out there, mental health is different for everyone. Um, if you guys want to DM me on Instagram and YouTube, and have discussions, I'm all ears. But I'm not by any means what is it called? By any means, I am not a scholar on this issue. I just found what worked for me.
Mhm.
Now, I'm not afraid to talk about mental health or mental issues or anything else. I want to find the path for all of us to really get to where we can say, okay, we've treated mental health in this country. We can do this, but it's going to take us time. It's going to take us a lot of maybe resources, whatever the case may be. But I don't mind talking about this. But again, I just wanted to reiterate that worked for me. It may not work for everyone. Like me and you have those examples, those personal life examples, and I believe that you're always going to talk about it in your campaigns as well as in your life, just for everyone. But
And if you don't have an example like this in your life yet, if you're listening to this and thinking, oh, this is rare, I used to think this was rare too. And as I've grown older, the more people I get to know, the more I realize this is not rare. In fact, you should consider yourself lucky if you don't have family members struggling with addiction and mental health problems. You are probably in the minority now. And the longer you live, the more likely you are to encounter it. When I was young, I didn't realize it, I didn't notice it around me. But as I've gotten wiser, I feel like with time, I see it more and more for what it is.
so Fort Smith does have a working class backbone. I know that for sure, especially in my father's business. Um, Again, from the last episode, my father came from Mexico, didn't have anything in his life, worked his way up to getting what it is today with La Huerta and some other business ventures. Um, let's see, how do you make sure that the city's growth lifts up everyday working families in your
Well, I
ministry?
can't, you can't make sure that growth lifts up specific people. Anybody who pretends like I can make sure that the city will grow in a way that these specific groups of people will be benefited, that's there is no way to make certain of that. Economic development happens through large numbers of people contributing to help attract business or help to facilitate the remodel of a restaurant and the opening of a restaurant in your family's case, or whatever that may be. But we can remove the hindrances that make it difficult for somebody to start a business. So I can tell you that if I were less stubborn, and I am ridiculously stubborn. If I were less stubborn, I would never have been successful in starting businesses in Fort Smith. It would have never happened because the whole time it was a fight against the city itself. How many great businesses started to be formed here in Fort Smith? Maybe the next Walmart, maybe the next Amazon, by somebody that wasn't as stubborn as I am, and they didn't get through the city bureaucracy. And they just said, you know what, I guess I just will never open this business. And we lost hundreds of jobs, thousands of jobs, tens of thousands of jobs over that. And those jobs would have been of all different pay scales, all different kinds, the working class, the white collar management, all of those things. And when we talk about going back over the last 60 years, how long it's been since 67, we're talking about a large period of time without having a person you could call and say, the city is harassing me. Would you please get these people off of me as I needed last year? And I could not get them off of me. They would not stop. I made a joke of it in my videos in many different ways. It was just laughable, and it was not a good look for the city. I did a video where I called other cities and asked, "Hey, I need to change a ceiling fan. I'm a landlord. I'd like to get a permit." And the cities would say, "No, you don't need a permit for that." And I'd say, "Well, I want to get a permit just to make sure it's okay. Like you can come out and inspect it afterwards." And like, no, we can't issue a permit for that. There's nothing to inspect when we come look at it. It's just going to be spinning and coming on. We can't see the wires when it's hung. So there's nothing we could inspect. This is ridiculous. And when I say I called other cities, I called Van Buren, I called Fayetteville, I called Seattle, Washington. I wanted to call it a liberal mecca because so many people thought that, we're super conservative. That means we're business friendly. That doesn't mean that. Conservatives like to claim that, but that's not what it means. Conservatism is a business the way it's always been done kind of mentality more so than economic freedom.
So living here in Little Rock, especially for me, I actually wanted to get into the business aspect.
You live
Just
in
one,
Little Rock?
yes, I live in Little
Oh,
Rock.
I didn't know that.
Now, I wanted to get a smoke shop going here, like a little bodega, something small, nothing too fancy. But this was my experience just going in through, getting the permits, getting everything. It was not easy. It really was not easy at all. And
Little Rock is another city that is not ran by a mayor council form of government. So you're using another perfect example of a city that I think is ran suboptimally. So
gotcha. I unfortunately gave up on the idea because there was just too much hurdles going into it. There was too many hurdles, and I was like, you know what? I couldn't even find like I found who owned the building that I kind of wanted to just lease, but they didn't have a phone number. They didn't have anything. They just had like an email, and they were like, "Well, you may get a response, you may not. You take your pick." So I was like, this is not how it should be. Like if it's a business, I understand like, you maybe like one or two hurdles, but it doesn't have to be like 15 or 20 hurdles just to get a business started, in my view.
right,
But
I would
yeah.
agree. In fact, when you call to start a business, how amazing would it be if the person you talked to said, "How can I help you?
Mm,
What do you need to get this started? What is your dream? Tell me
mm.
about it, and let me help figure out exactly the steps that you need to do, and then I'll guide you through that." That is a customer service centric approach, and it's something the city could do. And some cities do this. Very few do this well, just to be clear. And I don't think the change of government is a panacea that's going to make that happen, but it's going to give us the opportunity to begin to implement things more that way.
What is the greatest thing that you can think of when thinking about Portsmouth?
My wife, she's here, but outside of that, the greatest thing I think about Fort Smith is the citizens themselves. Um, from the time I was very young, most of my friends tried to move away as quick as they could when they graduated, and you probably experienced similar things. Is that I can't wait to leave. There's nothing here. There's no opportunity here for me. But I saw early on that there is opportunity, and there are great people and great resources. Fort Smith has everything it needs to succeed to a level that most cities could not imagine. We have the river. This river wraps around our city and is huge and beautiful if you've never seen it. We have um, natural resources all around us. Oil prices are inexpensive. We have rail. We have the I-40 interstate that goes right by our city. We have north-south highways that go through our city. It's very easy to transport. It's very low cost of labor. Beautiful forests and mountains and natural resources all around us. All the things that you could think that you could want in a place to live, we pretty much have. Combine that with people that are caring and I think very hardworking. I would say the citizens of Fort Smith, I think, work harder than almost anybody that I've ever seen. And they have to learn to fight and work hard because they are working against everything. And when you talk to the citizens, you start to realize whether you're talking to a contractor or you're talking to a roofer or you're talking to a restaurant owner or whatever, that in addition to their regular work, they have to regularly fight the bureaucracy of our city. And that is not the attitude that we want to have. We want them to be able to devote all their energies to accomplishing things. And it may not be a significant amount, maybe 2 or 3% of their time is spent fighting bureaucracy within our city. But if you think about terms of a restaurant that maybe employs, I would guess, over 100 people with your father's business, 2% of your resources is two additional jobs. Those two additional jobs are not only jobs for people, but that's additional work being accomplished. Maybe that's the difference between opening another restaurant and not. And then it becomes the difference between 20 more jobs or 30 more jobs. That little 2 or 3% extra hurdle we put on people that other cities don't. That adds up. When you magnify that times 90,000 people and over 200,000 during work hours that come into Fort Smith. So over 200,000 people having a 2 or 3% increase in the effort they have to put into it. We're talking about millions and millions of wasted dollars that could be better spent within the businesses and within the families that we are taking from with our overburdensome government?
I can attest to the fact that Fort Smith, for me, anyways, it's honestly home. It's home. The people there, the people that I've met, family, friends, that's just home. They are hardworking individuals, want to succeed in life. I know that for sure. And they are just amazing people. Love you, Fort Smith. If you guys see this, peace. Love you guys so much.
How has it been interviewing a vampire so far?
It's not that bad, man. And I gotta say, like me and you just having this dialogue, man, it's amazing. It is amazing. We viewers, this is just an amazing experience just to have dialogue. I'm a Republican conservative. He's libertarian independent. We can talk and have these discussions.
Can I
We can have,
challenge you on your Republican conservatism? I think it'll be good for your podcast.
by all means, by all means.
Okay, and this isn't to insult or anything else. But this is the kinds of questions that we might ask. So I'm just going to ask you some questions, and you could say whether you agree or you
Mhm.
disagree with the statement or whatever that I make or the statement. So, do you think government should less regulate business or increase the amount of regulation on business?
Less regulations.
Okay. Do you believe that the government should control the social actions of an individual deciding what he can and can't buy or sell?
Government shouldn't be in that arena. They can buy
Okay.
and sell whatever.
So anything you would like to buy from a person, you should be able to buy from the person, and he should be able to sell whatever he wants to sell you. Okay.
Mhm.
Do you think that something that can be given away for free should also be able to be sold?
Give it away freely and be able to sell it. I would
If
say
it's
yeah.
okay, it's okay to give it away for free. Should it be okay to sell it?
I would say yeah. So
In
yeah.
most cases.
In most cases, yeah, of course.
Okay. And there may be some exceptions to that. I'm just coming up with these questions off the top of my head, but um, do you believe that we should go to war with other nations for the purposes of protecting American business interests or political interests overseas?
So I believe yes, we should go for political and business interests.
Okay, so even if we aren't attacked or anything else, we should go to war overseas for those things.
Do you mind if I make a case for it?
You can pick a case if you want to. There's obviously one that's on a lot of people's minds, but
Sure, sure. So Iran, for example, I know, being a history scholar for myself, 40 plus years of them kind of, lack of a better word, poking the bear and saying death to America didn't really sit well with us. I don't think it was like a declaration of war per se, but it was them poking the bear. However, selling ammunition, putting it all over the Middle East and causing so much devastation, we needed to take action immediately.
let me
And
ask you this. Hang on, because I don't want to get too far off the questions that I'm asking. So I kind
sure,
of know the direction you're going, and I don't do this to interrupt, but I want to stay on course.
sure.
Um, and we can talk back about that issue again if you like here in just a minute. But let's continue with this. Do you believe the government? Do you believe that if you and a young lady were together having a wonderful picnic and thought, "I love you, I love you," do you think you should have to get a license from the government to be together, or do you think that that should be more of a religious thing that you do, and the government should just stay out of your business?
Government should be out of everybody's business. If
Okay.
I want to be with that person, yeah.
Um, do you believe that we can legislate equality? In other words, we can make it so that this person that is more successful than somebody else, we can take from them in order to give to make another person more successful than they are by taking from someone else. Use Jeff Bezos or somebody, Elon Musk. He's got $1 trillion. Let's take 100 billion from him and give to everybody, and that's going to make their situation better. Do you think that's true or false?
I think it's false because everybody is different and everybody has their skills and may not have skills. Either way, it's um it's merit. I believe merit it rules supreme, other than
Okay.
just giving away stuff.
Do you believe you have the right to property that you own?
Yes,
Do you
of
believe
course.
you have a right to have a weapon of any sort or fashion that you might want?
Yes.
Okay. I think you're probably a libertarian who's convinced that you're conservative. Um, but and that's pretty common. I'd say the only exception on that is probably the war, and the direction you're going for justification is the
Mhm.
libertarian justification, which is Iran is a threat to the United States because it has said death to America and has sold weapons to our allies for long enough, or weapons to the people against our allies long enough that they are officially a threat enough to justify that war. So
Mhm.
because you felt you had to justify them as a threat before we got involved, that's a sign that you're not okay with just going to war for political and economic reasons. You really need to see them as an actual threat before
Yes.
you were okay with it. Does that make sense?
Viewers, I have a bunch of Iranian friends. Canada. Canada has a lot of and good Iranian people out there. Shout out to them. See a lot of the struggles. X has shown a lot, and you can see a lot, unfortunately. And I've seen the devastations that they have caused upon those people. Now, my question to the government is, why hasn't this been addressed years and years and years?
So government kicking the can down the road on problems is pretty common. But here's the thing: I'm libertarian enough to say we can't force freedom upon someone. There
Mhm.
is nothing that we can do. We cannot go over there with freedom bombs and say, we're going to drop bombs on you to make you free. And that isn't how it works. Our nation building in other nations hasn't, it's cost trillions and trillions of dollars we don't have to bring freedom to other people that aren't wanting it themselves. Freedom comes from inside ourselves. Now we can give some opportunity, we can eliminate literal threats, but I would argue this as well. If we are going to go to war, we
Mhm.
should go to war. This half-assed, we're in a war with Iran, but we're not even putting troops on the ground, and we're trying to not kill people and break things, but we're at war. If we can't justify going over there and killing people and breaking things for real, we aren't at war, and we don't need to be striking at all. And that's where we get these half victories, where we've got the Strait of Hormuz shut down because we didn't go stop the people that could shut it down, and that causes the oil price spikes and everything else.
Mhm.
Trying to tip our toe in the you see we're doing something thing just to that's not going to war. If I think if you can't justify all out war, we probably shouldn't be going to war. That's that's my thought because we're putting men and women on the line over there with, and then we're tying their hands behind their back and saying, well, you can't do the things that you need to do to win.
I understand.
And I have Iranian friends, and I absolutely love the people of Iran. And I think that they were on the cusp of becoming free without our interference.
Mhm.
They have been pushing for a revolution for a while within, and I think that was about to happen. And one of the things that happens when you strike a nation is you solidify the nationalism behind the people that are in charge. And I
Mhm.
think we just unified a whole generation of young Iranians against us that was absolutely all ready to go into Western thinking and Western ideals. So I think that's an unfortunate side effect of these strikes, and that's my political take on it. I think it was a mistake, but I definitely sympathize with the Iranian people's plight and people who don't know. Those people were truly held back and oppressed by authoritarian government for a long time in a
Mhm.
way that is not okay. And I'm I'm hopeful that when this is all said and done, maybe they can join the world economy freely and live normal lives.
One piece of good advice from a good mentor of mine is you really can't kill worldviews. Unfortunately, that part of the world is dug in with its authoritarian um, clerical laws, religious laws, we can't just simply kill it and expect there to be change. It's not as simple as that. And my understanding was, yeah, just dropping a nuke or dropping a bomb, whatever the case may be, can't really destroy a worldview or a philosophy. People are going to be inspired by whatever those clerics have said and have done. And I hope there's going to be a big solution for this war. I'm sick and tired of it. I want the Iranians to win their freedom. Want them to be part of the freeness of the world economy. But just all these things of going to war, saying that we're going to do it. And I'll put it to this. One question I have from everyone is, why was it so easy for us to do it in Venezuela? Get Maduro, get him, but then in Iran, it's taken us. I think this started back in January. Is that correct? Or maybe
Mm,
even December,
February, I think.
February. Okay,
I think it was
I thought.
February. I think January we did Maduro.
Oh, right, right. So my question is, why is it taking forever? We should be able to.
I'm not a military strategist, so I'm not qualified to probably, but if I were to speculate, I would say that if I were from an authoritarian regime and I saw what happened to Venezuela, I would probably change my behavior in order to be more careful uh, following that and change the security measures and everything else. Um, Even the most staunch Trump supporter should be able to admit that we clearly underestimated Iran's ability to shut off the Strait of Hormuz. That was without a doubt. We expected this to be an easy thing. We would bomb the coastlines and everything would be fine. And Iran has done nothing militarily for 40 years except focus on how do we shut this strait off. Because
Mm,
if they do, they win the war. And they are winning this war. We literally negotiated a better deal for them than Obama did after because he was starving us for oil across the world. And now they've broken that deal. And the deal we negotiate may very well be worse yet again. So
yeah.
um, it's, removing oil sanctions or removing the restrictions. It's literally, we just offered them a better deal than they had before the war started. That means they're winning the war, not us, them. And yes, they may have more people that lost their lives. They may have more damage to buildings, but 300 billion in reparations was included in the last deal. Now they're shutting off the strait again. Are we going to end up with an even worse deal? I think ultimately this is going to involve us having to actually do a war where we put troops on the ground. If we want to get a deal that doesn't absolutely suck for the Americans, and I don't think we have the political will to do so, or we already would have. So that tells me that I think we overestimated our ability militarily, and I think we underestimated the enemy.
Anyways, hope never dies. I hope and pray that dramatic change will come about. And honestly, yeah, I hope this Iranian war ends and we get the better deal.
Well,
But like I said, I'll be praying for the leaders. All I have to do is just pray at this point. But
I want the Iranian people to become free
of
more than
course,
anything. I would love to see those people. If you look at pictures of Iran from the 70s, if you've
mhm,
never looked it up, it's incredible to look at the beaches. It was the place, if Americans were going to the Middle East, Iran was top on the list. We would go hang out on the beach and you'd have the movie stars and the bikinis and all the locals and everything. It was such a westernized place in the Middle East.
of course.
Then we know what happened, and that amount of authority over someone. And this is the thing. This is the thing that I pay attention to on this. It's that
Mhm.
amount of authority being exercised against the people that led to this harm and led to this that amount of control and authority. And a libertarian is almost always against an exercise of authority, especially by government. And that includes my government. Just because I like the people that may be elected, I hesitate to give them authority because I might not like the next person that's elected. Just because it's my guy that I like right now doesn't mean 20 years from now it's a person that I like with that power. And that is the lesson that I wish we could get from this is they were like us. They were free. They were able to do what they wanted to do and say what they wanted to say. And in just a
Mhm.
very short period of time, that changed because people were willing to tolerate authority, and amongst other things. That's a politically complex issue. I don't need to summarize it down too much, but be very cautious with the authority we give to others. And anytime we have an opportunity to make more accountability for our leaders, more elections, more term limits, more opportunity to limit the power that the political figures have, we should try to take that as a people because it'll make us more resilient against authority being exercised over us.
I will agree with you on the term limit parts. Yeah, I'm sorry, Mitch, but or even Mitch, Nancy, pretty much every single one of those people, in my view, should have been termed out. Or if we give so much term limits for the president, just having 8 years, why can't we do the same for our elected officials in Washington D.C.?
I would agree completely. And career politician, that person better be moving from one position to another and facing challenges. Just settling in and knowing you're going to do this until you pass away is not a way to have new and fresh and changing ideas. And again, this isn't, and everybody thinks, oh yeah, if it were Nancy, if it were this person, but they don't want to look internal at the ones that represent them either locally. They don't. It's always the other state senators, the other states representatives that are the problem. But I
Like
could,
I said, for the purpose of this show, it was dialogue. Dialogue is key. Us
right,
doing this is America. Like, I may not, just to put it out there, I may not agree with what you believe, and you may not agree what I believe, but we sit here, we respect each other enough to say, I may take away stuff what you just told me, and you may take away stuff, vice versa. But at the end of the day, like, I feel like that's what's missing in this country is just having a simple dialogue with folks that are just not,
agreed.
yeah, politically aligned with
Okay,
them.
so in the House of Representatives, there are many seats that are safe, and they aren't going to change parties no matter what happens.
Mhm.
They are 100% going to elect a Democrat or 100% going to elect a Republican.
Mm.
That is a huge problem with our nation. Whenever you
Yeah.
have somebody that doesn't face a challenge, you don't have a reason to change views and to adapt and to listen to someone else. Um, Challenge of ideas is important. Somebody should
Mhm.
always be able to challenge. And and it's because we select an area where almost everybody in that area thinks the same way, and so they're going to have a representative. And naturally, we should have variety of our representatives because of neighborhood differences and regional differences. That's, a person that represents Louisiana should have a lot different thinking than a person who represents Seattle, Washington. They're
Mhm.
going to have very different cultures, very different things. So we're going to get some diversity in that. But I'm talking politically, going back to a two-party concept. It's Democrats or it's Republicans. If we're going two-party, then we have safe seats. Now we have, something like 85% of House of Representatives seats are never going to change hands.
Hmm.
How ridiculous is that? I mean, it's absolutely absurd. Those people will never face a challenge to their ideals. They can do whatever they want and know they will be reelected as long as and that should never be the case. Our politicians should always be earning our respect. They should always be earning our next vote. They should always be at risk of not being reelected. That's my belief. And again, another example of how the two-party system has failed. The reason why a Nancy Pelosi can act the way a Nancy Pelosi can act is because it's safe. Her seat is safe, probably the most safe seat. And that means that, yeah, it doesn't matter what she says, what she does, none of those things. She will not face a challenger She
Mhm.
knows that. So now, in theory, somebody could challenge from their own party or whatnot, but we know how rarely that works out.
So viewers, again, if you take anything from this pot or this episode, is talk to somebody, talk to them, even have those uncomfortable or even comfortable moments of like just discussion. Talk about anything. Have the respect for that person to say, I may not agree, but hey, we still respect each other. We'll grab a beer, we'll do something, and we'll be friends. Like agree to disagree. That's always a famous saying. I live by that.
Humans are adaptable. Humans are the most adaptable creatures on this planet. That's why we're in charge of the planet. We adapt to situations.
Mhm.
But one of the strangest adaptations we have now in the West is we adapt to try to not adapt.
Hmm.
We have tried to figure out a way to live the same day over and over again, sitting in the same chair, working the same job, coming home to watch the same show, the same news program, the same thing, with our expected same favorite beverage. For me, it's a Pellegrino sparkling water. Eating the same foods at our favorite restaurants, and over and over and over again, not being uncomfortable, not putting ourselves in a situation where we have to adapt. Um, in reality, if you want to be your best, put yourself in a situation that you are uncomfortable in every day. Try to come up with some way to do something you've never done before. Go jump on a martial arts mat and let's wrestle with some people or punch it out with some people. Go learn dance. Go try to learn an instrument. Go try to learn how to code. Try to learn how a computer program works. Try to learn to animate something. Learn to draw something. Paint with a Bob Ross video. Do something that makes you uncomfortable, but not just on action, but also politically.
Mhm.
Let yourself be challenged by political ideas that you don't agree with without becoming resentful to the person for having different ideas. Let let the challenge happen and let yourself adapt. That's the heart of the discussion you're talking about is through discussion we can challenge each other and I can adapt as I learn from you and you can adapt as we learn from and we can increase our overall ability to do things and that is good. That is healthy. That is when we are being the most human, I think. Not that I'm a person to be judging humanity, I guess, since people call me a vampire, but
Well, viewers, I wanted to do a quick rapid fire with him, just to get to know him a little better.
all
You're
right.
ready, Shane?
Go ahead.
Sunrise or sunset?
Hmm. Sunset.
Sunset. The one thing about, well, we may have already touched on that actually. If Fort Smith were a person, how would you describe them?
Hmm. Strong, stubborn, um, made some mistakes in its past that it's trying to overcome, and a little bit skeptical of others, I would say, very skeptical, um, maybe to a fault.
Gotcha. The biggest misconception people have about you.
Hmm. Hmm. Good question. Biggest misconception. I think a lot of people expect my life to be a lot more exciting than it actually is. I value calmness, and I live a very calm life. I would say most of the people that think I must be having the most wild nights every night with crazy parties and everything else. I think they would be surprised that my life is probably much more calm and boring than theirs is.
Gotcha. So one word that describe let's see, one word that describes the Fort Smith you want to build.
Hypothetically, we change the form of government, and I do have some ability to lead and build. And the one thing I can do actually, so this is the thing that I can do. The mayor leads communication of the city, and I can be transparent. Everything I do is done openly on video, live, almost all the time, whether it's TikTok or Facebook or YouTube. I am almost always live while I'm working on houses, while I'm doing other things. Bringing that live video to things happening within the city of Fort Smith We'll end the shady darkroom deals, the behind the scene things that everybody worries about what's happening. We will know why these decisions are made, what discussions went into them. And I think that will give us a much more transparent government than ever before. Hopefully, it will also encourage intercommunication between all these different organizations within the city.
Gotcha. And the last question here, just a quick send off for our viewers. Voters are obviously going to look at this, and what would you like to tell them at this moment? What is your pitch?
I, I don't want to pitch you anything. I just want to be clear. I don't want to pitch you something. I don't want to sell you on something. There are many candidates running for mayor. If you don't like me, one of the other people may be more, and you shouldn't feel like you need to, but just because you do like me shouldn't be the reason why you vote for me.
Hmm.
You vote for me because you value transparency. You like the idea of meetings being held publicly, not secretly. Vote for me because you want to see the Chamber of Commerce and the Main Street and the CBID and all these different organizations that we don't ever know what's happening in working together for the good of the city, and that you want the city to move in a direction of making it easier and more customer service centric to start businesses. If those are not things that you want to vote for, don't vote for me. That's okay. But those are the things that I'm focused on, and you will see me consistently talking about. So just because you enjoy my videos, other things, that's not a great reason to vote for a candidate. Vote for me because you can get behind those things, or vote for somebody else, and that's okay.
Maybe one more thing: pepperoni or garlic pizza?
I don't do garlic. I'm on a carnivore diet. I don't eat any plants. Only things that come from animals.
Gotcha. Well, viewers, we had an amazing time talking to this man right here. Shayne, I thank you so much. Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast.
Can I
And
ask
I
you a
will,
question before you
sure.
before you sign out? I'm bad about interrupting. I know you can heckle me
Oh,
in the comments about that, but did I surprise you in this interview? Was this different than you expected?
it was a difference. It was a difference, to be honest with you,
What
but it was a good
surprised you most about this?
that we, what was it? I gave you time to speak about your views and what you've wanted to accomplish, and you did the same for me. You gave me time to speak. Granted, I, obviously didn't have like time to prepare, so to speak, but you know, this dialogue, like you were very respectful, and I thank you so much for that.
Well, I thank you for taking the time to have me here. I think a discussion and even a disagreement is a valuable thing, and it's something that we need to treasure and to get back to valuing as a society much more. And I think you understood that. That's why when you invited me, the way you invited me, and you talked about focusing on the discussion, that's why I was excited to come here and talk to you. It seemed like you understood the value of real dialogue and real discussion.
Of course, of course. And viewers, I believe the mayoral race for Fort Smith is coming up November, maybe the
Third,
6th.
3 days after Halloween, coincidentally.
Ah, so viewers, get to know this man. I'll put the link in the description. But yes, talk to this man, get to know him. And viewers, also like and share this. We need to get more people on this podcast and subscribe. Subscribe. I put it out there. If I get 200 by August 1st, I will skydive. I am fearfully.
Skydiving.
Yes, yes.
Are
I
you excited about that or afraid of skydiving?
I am afraid of I'm afraid of heights, but you got to try some new stuff. You got to get out there, be uncomfortable, you know?
I would skydive in a second. I've never done it. It's definitely on my list of things to do. I spent a big part of my younger years being afraid of heights and not wanting to go anywhere near high things and whatnot. But just adaptation as I put myself in situations where I was able to overcome that. And
Mhm.
I think that would be one of the ultimate thrills now. I don't know about bungee jumping. I think that's still a bridge too far, but skydiving, I would do.
So, viewers, 200 subscribers by August 1st. I will skydive. Scout's honor. I will do it.
When I share this out, I'm gonna try very hard to get you 200 subscribers. I uh, I think we will make that happen for you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.